August 24th.
Recording in progress.
Welcome everyone to the August 24th, 2021 meeting of the Cupertino Planning Commission. And this will be a remote meeting conducted in authority with the governor's orders to halt the spread of COVID-19. May we have the roll call, please?
Let's see. Commissioner Madipatra?
Here.
Commissioner Saxena?
Here.
Commissioner Capel?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sharp?
Here.
All right. So we have Chair Wong is not here at the moment.
Okay, give me 1 second to bring up the agenda. I was not planning to chair this meeting. I didn't have it here. Okay, there it is. Oh. Okay. Okay, let's scroll down here. We did the... Are there any postponements today?
No.
Okay, and we are now on to oral communications. This is for anyone wishing to address the commission on any matter that A, is within the jurisdiction of the commission, and B, not on the agenda. And you each get 3 minutes. And I will go over to the participants 1 second. And it looks like we have one hand raised, and that hand is Jennifer Griffin. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Standing Chair Sharp. Hi, I'm Jennifer Griffin. I'm just going to make a statement about the housing bills. I have never in my life seen such political depravity in this state. Ever since I was sitting in the city council chambers 4 years ago, when in the fall, when we first were told that Jerry Brown had signed a whole group of housing bills that Scott Wiener had introduced, I was dumbfounded that our governor would do this. I did not understand what was going on. I felt like I was in a different state, in a different time. So over the last 4 years, I and other people have struggled to understand what is happening politically in this state. And I can tell you right now, I am appalled. I have never seen anything like this in California. I sent a letter to you all just recently that I grew up with robber baron definition, and this is way beyond robber baron. The levels of cronyism and political instability in this state, no wonder there is an attempt to recall the governor for good or ill. I don't even know how it happened, but we are going into a tailspin. SB 9 and SB 10 pushed this to a head. We are at a loggerjam. We are at the precipice. The public, my family, myself, my brother-in-law in Oregon, we were never asked for our opinion on these housing bills. They're being subjected to HB 2001, which is 50 on steroids. My family was never asked, and I was never asked for a vote. But yet we have unelected groups peddling these bills, telling us what we're supposed to do, and our elected politicians are not helping. They're making it worse. There is so much hidden money from Oregon, Washington, from mega millionaires coming in to back the bills in Oregon, Washington, and California. Money is coming in from mega millionaires in California, and these people are not elected either. So why are they taking over our state? Yeah, it is time for pushback. My vote counts, and believe me, we need to look back to where SB 9 and SB 10 came from to understand what is happening. This is a complete political disaster in this state. And if you wanted to live in interesting times, we are. Good luck. Thank you to our planning staff. You guys are in for a hard road. A job's a job. You should be proud of what you've been doing. But I am appalled with what's
Okay,
happening in
please
California.
finish up.
I am absolutely appalled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And I will have some updates when I do my commission report because I have spoken with one of our legislator staffs just today. Next, we have Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Connie. So can you?
Okay, good.
Very good. We can hear you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. And it's very interesting to have this time to listen to your deliberations this evening. I'm looking forward to the discussion on the ADU, as I'm very much in favor of them. I did want to go on record that I'm interested in the planning that's going on for the housing element and look forward to adding more housing for all incomes and abilities in our city, and am hoping that we can have a really good turnout from the public and from all of our officials to discuss some really good ideas that I've been hearing from various groups in the community. So best wishes to you this evening in your deliberations on the ADU, and that'll be the end of my comments. Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Next, we are on to, I don't see anyone else with hands raised. So we are on to, are there any written communications from members of the public?
We do not have any written communications
Okay.
except for what relates to ADUs from Jennifer Griffin.
Okay, well that's part of the agenda item. Okay, it doesn't look like anything is on the consent calendar. I guess we are not approving the unapproved minutes. Isn't there one set of minutes that's still not approved?
Yes, that will return to you at the regular meeting on September 14th.
Okay, great. So now we are on to the only item on the agenda, which is the study session to provide an update on the pre-approved accessory dwelling unit program and accessory dwelling unit implementation. And we will receive the presentation and then provide comments. So let's go to the staff report.
Good evening, Vice Chair Scharf. Thank you for having this study session. My name is John Martier. I'm a senior planner with the city's Community Development Department. And I've been the planner that's been involved with the ADU program since 2016, pretty much when the state started its mandating of more progressive ADU policies and whatnot. So the Planning Commission heard a study session a little over a year ago in June. And so I'm coming back here tonight to discuss the progress that's been made thus far on a couple of fronts. The first being, first is being our pre-approved ADU program, as well as an update on the numbers of the ADUs that have been approved so far during this housing element cycle, and particularly these last 2 years. So let me share my screen. Quick. Okay. Oops, that's the wrong one. Sorry about that. Use that one. Everyone see that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so accessory dwelling units study session. Again, okay. So the City Council work program for 2020-2021 under housing. The row specifically talks about established procedures and policies on streamlining the ADU review process. I believe it's the second year that this particular one's been on the work program, and the third year that a work program item has dealt with the production of, or encouraging the production of accessory dwelling units. So, as mentioned in the introduction, on June 23rd, 2020, myself had conducted a Planning Commission review and study session of, again, the update of where we were at with production at that time, as well as going over ideas for the pre-approved program. And at the discussion, we talked about the various cities that had pre-approved programs, but in particular, the City of San Jose's ADU Ally program, which did a number of things, was offers pre-approved plans from selected vendors, and which with the idea of quickening the review process while saving the applicant money and most importantly, time. Out of the 6 jurisdictions, I believe, that staff had looked into that had pre-approved programs, the City of San Jose's was the most fiscally responsible of all the cities. And what I mean by fiscally responsible, I mean that the least amount of expenditure from staff or from the city to implement a program, while also have one of the easier ones to maneuver for an applicant as well. So the Planning Commission's direction was to return for a follow-up study session on the progress of the city's own pre-approved ADU program. So why we're here tonight, which and subsequently we will, after this, most likely go to council. I believe the earliest we can do it is a second meeting in September. So the pre-approved ADU program, it enables residents to choose a pre-approved ADU design from a specific vendor. Some of the criteria for a pre-approved ADU would be that the pre-approved ADU must be detached, but can be either stick-built or prefabricated. What stick-built means, the traditional way of building. You have foundation, you have framing, whatnot, whereas a prefab can be, does not have a foundation other than slab on grade. Further, it could be prefabricated in the factory, assembled on site or at the factory itself and craned over into a backyard, which we've had already, 1 or 2 examples. All pre-approved ADUs must be property owners or residents that only live in the Valley Floor geologic designation can have a pre-approved ADU, mainly because within that geologic zone, there aren't any site-specific foundation issues that have to be responded to within the design. So within the Valley Floor designation, which is pretty much the most secure for building, you could have a uniform foundation system for each of those prefabricated ADU, thus be limited to those zones. So if you are within a fault rupture, slope instability, hillside, or liquefaction inundation zone, you're not eligible to have pre-approved ADU. For the applicant who wants to have a pre-approved ADU, you still have to submit a boundary survey, site plan, and specs for an HVAC unit if you are going to propose one within that pre-approved ADU. And this is consistent throughout any pre-approved ADU plans that any jurisdiction has, or pre-approved ADU program in any jurisdiction. So what is the route for getting a pre-approved ADU design in? So what first happens that a vendor will submit a design for an ADU to the building department, pretty much as a building permit. The plans are then routed to various departments for review and approval for building code and fire safety. If approved, the vendor and design are listed on the city's webpage. Approved design is also kept on file with the building permit, through the building department or building division. Qualified homeowners can work with the approved vendor to submit the specific building permit, and those approved vendors can be accessed through the city's webpage. The building permit application is then reviewed for compliance with zoning related issues. So once the homeowner chooses one, they go through that process of submitting the pre-approved plan with the boundary survey and site plan. And then the building permit is issued. Our thought is that this can eliminate at least a couple of weeks worth of review time or more for the pre-approved ADU to be reviewed and application submitted, and the time the application is submitted. So this is the web page we have right now on the city's website, and I think there was a link on the staff report as well. Let me just click on it to show you what we have here. Okay, can everyone see the web page? So we have a brief introduction to ADUs and the pre-approved ADU program. Then we have these accordion files over here that describe the process for a vendor or designer to apply for a pre-approved ADU. And then we have over here, as a homeowner, what is my next step? So how does a homeowner apply for an ADU, a pre-approved ADU? And it goes through here with various links to the application process, whatnot. Pretty much goes through the explanation of who's eligible, who's not eligible, as described previously. Our GIS team added this great function right here that allows a homeowner and or resident to see if their address actually can have or qualifies for a pre-approved ADU. So I chose a couple addresses, one that can be applied for, the one that it is eligible, and one that's not eligible, just to show you how it functions. You type in this address right here. So I just chose a few randomly. And if there's someone out there in the community whose house this is, I apologize. I didn't ask for your permission, but I don't think there's anything secretive about this. So what automatically happens is the zoning will pop up, as well as a message that's automatically generated to say that this property may qualify for a pre-approved ADU. But regardless of whether you can have one or you can't have one, we still encourage folks to speak to staff anyways. So it talks about your zoning and also the geologic hazard zone, just to confirm that it does meet that criteria. So you can see this at this residence, that they're in R110, so they're a single family neighborhood, and they're within the valley floor geologic zone. Further, we have you can map out where your property is within the city as well. And in fact, in case someone does call in, without going to the webpage, us as staff can use this function as well to see if they do qualify. So if I want to show a property that doesn't qualify, send one. Okay, this is property in the hillside, as you can see. There. Pops up. You can see that the message pops up. This property likely does not qualify for a pre-approved ADU. Please contact planning staff. And you can look at the zoning, it's a hillside zone, and the geologic hazard zones for the fault rupture zone. So those are the reasons why it doesn't, you wouldn't qualify. And then where in the webpage will we list our vendors? We have this widget right here. Again, we don't have any vendors right now at this point. But ideally, we would put the pre-approved vendors here with a description of what the plans are, and probably a link, a PDF showing what the plans are as well, with the vendor's contact and what. So next one. On top of this, for the last, I would say probably last year, we've also had handouts that help any applicant for a ADU, pre-approved or just a regular ADU, learn about the city's development standards for ADUs, as well as the steps to a complete ADU process. Staff has utilized these quite a bit whenever someone contacts us to know about the development standards or have any ADU questions. We like to follow up with an email with a link to this from our webpage, whatnot. So how are we doing with ADU production within the city? So again, with the current housing element cycle, 2014 to December 2021, I'm sorry, 2014 to 2022, our prediction was that we would have the 32 ADUs throughout the 8-year program. Well, what we have at this point from 2014 to August 3rd, 2021, the last time I pulled the data, was that we've approved 118 ADUs throughout the city. And you can see the breakdown of the types of ADUs, whether they're attached or converted livable space, and or detached. So starting from 2014, you can see that there's been an increase steadily over the years. And as of now, 2021 seems to be our most productive year right now, as of now. we have 25 permits issued for ADUs. So for 2020 to 2021, as you can see, this is our ADU production broken up by whether they're JADUs, detached ADUs, attached ADUs, or conversions of either principal dwelling unit or a conversion of detached structure. As you can see, this is the breakdown between 2 years with 45 approved units. Right there, we haven't had any JADUs, so which is a little interesting for us. We have various ideas why, but we don't have any. So at this point, that's my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, this is what this time is allotted for, to get any suggestions as to how the staff can improve the webpage or possibly make the process a little more smooth for the applicant, or answer any questions about how we, currently approve ADUs and any trends we might see, and any thoughts you might have. So thank you for letting me share this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to Planning Commission, let's go to participants. I see one hand raised, and that is Lisa Warren. Welcome, Lisa. You have 3 minutes. Oh, now I see 3 hands raised. So it will be Lisa Warren, followed by Jennifer Griffin, followed by Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. So actually, I have a question about John's comment about no junior ADUs. I distinctly remember a project that was appealed in the North Blaney area where there is a JADU involved. Anyway, aside from that, in John's slides, the image of what I assume to be a pre-approved unit it's really disappointing. It's really worrisome, actually, that image, if I'm seeing it correctly, shows a shed roof, which I'm assuming, I think it's an 18-foot height limit. So I'm assuming the high point of that shed roof is at 18 feet. And it's on the property line side. That's just wrong. That isn't something that should be encouraged. If I'm not right about what that image shows, let me know, please. But if I'm right, please do something about it. This was mentioned by a few people in prior meetings that if you're going to have designs with a shed roof, that height should not be at the property line with a 4-foot setback minus the eave. I mean, I'm really kind of sick to my stomach about it, actually. So I guess I'd like some clarification on that before I say anything else, but I don't know if you can get that clarification in this.
Yeah, that would be good to know. I mean, also, it may not be that the city has any authority to specify design standards like that. But
Well,
John,
I would think that if there's a 4-foot setback and there's a height limit, it should be like anything else. There should be some kind of building plan where you can't put that highest point at the closest to the property line. It's asinine. It's wrong in so many different ways.
that's true. I mean, you can't even put a shed in like that.
Exactly.
So
what
John,
the-
can you comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, this is a stock photo. It's not from Cupertino. It's not a problem to switch it out with one that's more in line with what our ordinance says. I don't know if it's 18 feet. I don't think it's 18 feet. 18 feet's pretty tall, and that fence doesn't look like a property line fence as well. But again, switching out a photo is pretty easy. We don't want to give any we don't want to give the public any misinterpretation of what would be allowed or not. So if you think that's going to cause too much confusion with the community, I'd be more than happy to swap
But
it
is
out.
that one of the ones like from San Jose or what? Or is that
It's,
just some stock image?
It's a stock image. I thought it's got a nice color to it, so put that in there. But that's not a problem. I can switch it out. That's easy to do.
But the more important thing is there something like that going to be allowed, or is there language somewhere that says that that is not allowed? I mean, swapping the picture is one thing, but swapping what's allowed is another. Oh.
Yes, Lisa, we have an ordinance that
Okay.
that states that. So
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. The next speaker is Jennifer Griffin. Welcome, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Sharp. I addressed you correctly. Thank you to the staff for doing a wonderful job under difficult circumstances. We always yell at you, but you guys did a good job. I'm going to just start out here and say, burst everybody's bubble. I'm like Debbie Downer today. Along with investigating all the housing bills for the last 4 years, I've been watching the evolution of the ADU bills. And I hate to say this, they are just as bad as SB 50, SB 10, SB 330. Bad, bad, bad. Anyway, so much for Debbie Downer. I am very concerned about the 4-foot setback as echoed by Lisa. Believe me, if I found out somebody was building that thing 4 feet from my property line, I would immediately hire a surveyor to survey all 4 property lines in my yard. I'm on a small lot. Every ounce of land in these lots, 5,000 square feet. My mother's on a 4,500 square foot on sand embankment in Rio del Mar, surveyed in 1920. It's kind of like Monte Vista Inspiration Point. You just can't put things in places in the backyard that close to the fence. And I will say right now, I think that the people that wrote these ADU bills had zero planning experience. It's like Mr. Real Estate Agent came in and I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm sorry, Mr. Developer or Miss Developer came in and said, I want to build 4 feet from the property line. They wrote it into the bill. It's not safe. It doesn't make any sense. And since we're not allowed to vote on these stupid bills, pardon my English, we're voicing our disapproval now. Yeah, I'd spend $5,000 to get a surveyor. I don't want that thing anywhere near my property line. Thank God I have PG&E clearances across 2 parts of my property. The other thing is, what is going on with the parking issues with the ADUs? That's another brain dead thing that they wrote into these ADU bills. No parking. You know where the people have to park? On the street. My mother right now, 2 houses from her, has a brand new ADU. They generate 3 cars and they park on the road right in front of her house on a hillside. And across the street from her is a very nice Airbnb, and their people park on the road. My brother in Portland has 4 ADUs that went in the last year and a half in Portland. 1920 neighborhood, single family homes, 4,500 square foot lots. They have at least 10 cars parking on their road because they don't have to park on the property. Let's get these ADU bills right if we're going to have to suffer them. I'm not a fan, and it's getting worse. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. And next we have Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Connie.
Well, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. And I wanted to say thank you to John Martyr for the work that he has done on this. I happened to have met John on like the first year these things were approved, and I had read it in the paper, and I was quite excited about the idea that homeowners would be able to work with their properties and to help them grow their families in a good place, and to be able to help their senior parents and so forth. So I was quite excited about it and went down. It was in 2017 to speak to the Housing Commission because they were having a study session on it, and I gave them my opinions, and then I actually met John afterwards and gave him my opinions there. And I've been to a number of various what do you call them, conferences and things talking about ADUs, and I do know that there are some issues with them, and we've heard them talked about tonight. But I think there are some very positive aspects of ADUs which I wanted to bring up, which is it allows homeowners some flexibility when they can't afford to leave or something, but they want to provide for their family. So anyway, thank you very much, John Martyr, and thank you to the Planning Commission. I'm sure that we can work out the details and that we'll have a very fine ADU process here in Cupertino and some very good looking ones at the end. Thank you, and that's the end of my comments.
Okay, thank you, Connie. Now we will bring it back to the Planning Commission members. If anyone would like to speak on this, go ahead and raise your hand. Let me expand this. Okay. Okay, I see we have 4 planning commissioners. Mooney, would you like to go first?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Vice Chair Stephen Shar. I have a few questions to John. So you said we approved so far 120 plus ADUs since we went live with this program. Is that correct?
Not with the program, but just in general since 2014.
Yeah. Since 2014 to date,
Right.
we approved, 120 plus, ADUs, right?
Sure, 118.
118. So how does that compare to, what we expected coming out of the program, right? Did we expect 1,000 to be approved by now, or, or what is the number?
We expected 32.
Over many years?
Over 32 over 8 years. Yes.
Wow, that's not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many have been built of the approved ones?
You know what? That's a great question. I can look into it for move forward with council. I'm assuming most from 2020 to 2014. Those have probably been built out. 2021 ones from 2021 are probably still in construction. But that's a good. I can look that up.
I can add some context about why we expected 32 to be built in this 8-year season. In this 8-year cycle. It was because HCD limited us to assuming that the same number that was built in the prior housing element cycle would be built in the following housing element cycle. So in essence, between 2007 and 2014, we only had 32 ADUs built. And so HCD basically said, fine, we'll accept that you will build at least 32 ADUs in your upcoming housing element cycle. But then they, of course, loosened all the laws in 2016, and that kind of opened the floodgates of sorts to the addition of more ADUs.
So from what we expected versus, what we ended up with approving, seems like, we did nearly, 4 times, which is, great success. So it's my understanding that, the ADUs count towards the housing element, right? So whatever that we need to build. So what are we expecting from this, pre-approved ADU program in terms of, success? Assuming that we go live with this, do we have some idea of, what we expect in next 5 years?
A specific number, no. My conversation with the city of San Jose, for example, they've in a couple of years they've approved 15 further ADUs that were directly from this program. Of course,
15 in a year.
That just from their specific ADU pre-approved program.
Pre-approved program. So how does that compare against the normal ADUs that they approve?
I would think far less if they had the same. I don't have the specific number, but.
Yeah. No, I'm not expecting this number to outstrip that one. I'm just trying to see, what percentage. Like, for example, is this cannibalizing, the other program, or, is this warrant above, what they were doing? So, right. So if you look at, our numbers, we were in steady state, 15 to 25 every year, we were approving. So if you go this route, are we going to cannibalize that program, or versus, this pre-approved is going to be warrant above, what we already have as
maybe I can try to answer that a little bit. The the stick built, people build stick built for a variety of reasons, which is, it matches their home, whatever else that they have. The pre-approved ADU will really be, already pre-designed, and will have a certain form and the materials that kind of go on it. And so it would just shorten the process, the review process of getting it approved. A stick build would be approved from scratch. Essentially, the building department would look at all the calculations, the structural calculations, Title 24, all those other things, and that takes a few weeks. It could take multiple rounds of review, for example. But with the pre-approved ADU program, that part, which is the building department side, will already have been approved. So the only thing that we would be looking at when they come in with plans would be the site plan to make sure that that it's cited correctly.
Okay. So one last question, Vice Chair. So this is something that now I've been thinking about for a while. So I just want to put it out there, right? Can we look at some ways where we can encourage more ADU build outs? Because I'm generally in favor of giving more options for residents, right? We know that we have an aging population, and they want to age in place, and so it's good to have for them to help on site, and it works out in the long run, right? So ADU is not a bad idea. So if we want to encourage everyone to build a ADU, so what are the things that we can do? Like, can we waive the fees and radically go crazy in terms of giving all kind of incentives for people to build ADUs, right? Because that just helps us to retire the housing element numbers that we have, huge number in front of us, and also it helps our residents to cater to their needs, right? At the end of the day, we're all here to help serve our residents, right? So that's just a thought that's been on the back of my mind, for a while. I just want to put it out there. Thank you.
Muted. Next, Vikram, do you have anything?
I wanted to know about the process a little bit more. Do we follow some state standards, or do each and every person who's manufacturing have to go through a separate process with the city?
Sure. I mean, it's really through the building code process. Every pre-approved ADU. Just speaking of the pre-approved ADUs, even the ones that aren't pre-approved have to meet building standards, building permits, building code standards, both fire code and whatnot. So the pre-approved process doesn't exempt you from those at all. And in fact, one of the things I neglected to mention was that every time the building code is updated, which is every 3 years, those pre-approved plans should be updated as well. So the building department would reach out to those vendors and say, you will probably have to update it because of such and such reasons. Maybe they don't. Maybe the updated building code won't affect it at all, but if it does, they would have to resubmit and go through that process one more time. The process, there's no state standard for actually applying. There's definitely consistent standards throughout the state of California for every jurisdiction. It's a regular building permit. There's no discretionary review of these ADUs. It's really ministerial if you meet the code, if you meet the objective standards of the zoning ordinance for ADUs, such as setbacks and height. It's purely ministerial.
I think the second question I had was that is the plan approval for a certain style, or is it down to the last inch? Like, can you move a window 6 inch left or right, or how does it work? What does it mean?
So for a pre-approved plan, there is some flexibility built in. If it's just, I want to move a window a little bit, I really like this pre-approved plan, but I want to move the window or make it a little bit larger. There is some flexibility built in with that, as long as it doesn't structurally change the integrity of the building. That it would have to be reviewed. But yes, there is some flexibility built in. I don't have a certain percentage, what percent does it have to be, but it is minimal because once you start making larger changes, it does impact the integrity of the
Yeah.
design.
And if I'm a homeowner and I want to move window from like 6 inches up or down, I would submit like a new permit application, or like what would be the process be?
If it's already built, yes, you would
Or
have to submit. But if
like
it's
while I'm planning it, like okay, I want to get an ADU.
mhm,
The ADU manufacturer says they're pre-approved for the city,
sure.
and but we want to move something around. You want to move the window up,
Mhm.
reduce the window, increase the window. What's the process for that?
So in that case, you would have a letter from the architect or your designer that would state that here are the deviations that are part of that from the pre-approved plans. However, these aren't structurally; these deviations don't violate any structural integrity of what's been pre-approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Kapil, do you have anything?
Yeah, just two questions on this thing. Is there a kind of a fire safety guideline for ADUs, which basically is inbuilt into the into the standard which city has put up for the developers to build prefabricated ADUs for the houses? And what does it entail? Basically, I did hear one concern that from the boundary line it's 4 feet or whatever setback, and I just thought about it is about the fire. Does that setback actually takes into account some kind of a fire safety for the neighbors
Sure.
wherever?
Sure, and again, even each pre-approved plan before it's allowed, it is reviewed by all departments, including the fire department and whatnot. Once the homeowner comes in and submits an application with using a pre-approved plan, again, staff does look at the setbacks. I mean, that's as Pew had elaborated or discussed earlier. We will look at the setbacks. Now, if those setbacks do trigger some different type of fire rated materials, for example, it's too close to the property line, if it's closer to the property line, then if a certain distance does trigger fire rated materials, that would be a comment that would come back saying, okay, you're proposing this detached structure, that detached unit that is such and such feet away from the property line. You have to actually add this fire rated wall at this level. I don't know specifically what that is, but we would take that consideration.
One is the setback, and another is about the material used on the ADU, or there could be another considerations too. Which I'm not very conversant with. But what I'm saying is there is kind of a guideline, which is that being ADU out there, it does not endanger the neighboring properties because of its existence over there, in case a mishap happens. So, is there something baked inside the guidelines for the fire safety for ADU specifically?
Absolutely. When any applicant for any structure has to abide by the the building code, the residential code, as well as the fire code as well, and all departments are involved in reviewing that. Health, even in the state mandate, health and safety standards are one of the ways that are non-negotiable. They're not discretionary at all. So you have to meet those, and that's pretty clear in the state law as well.
If I may add just one thing, prior to the state mandating that the setbacks for ADUs be 4 feet, the city allowed accessory structures, including ADUs, as close as 3 feet to the property line. So this is a little better for the neighbors, actually. But aside from that, yes, as John stated, all the fire code certainly specifies, and the building code also specifies what kind of materials can be used if you get within a certain distance of the property line. So any building that's placed close to the property line would have to be rated and rated with those materials. And that is reviewed as part of the process.
I had one more question about, so these ADUs homeowners can rent, right? So is there some kind of a density consideration of that neighborhood taken into account, that how many people can, like, how many cars, parking spaces taken on that road, how many people can live in that ADU and things like that. I mean, the bottom line is that is there any process right now for the neighbors to come in and object about the ADU inside a home because of certain reasons, that it is taking away too much parking space, or it is taking away some kind of a noise, or I don't know. I mean, there could be many considerations out there for which somebody can complain about it. Is there something, some provision is there for those type of?
Yeah, I mean, as ADUs are a ministerial process, there's no notification of the neighbors. I mean, that's typical for any type of ministerial permit, such as a building permit. In terms of public comment, neighbor comment, and whatnot, and, we do have cases where a neighbor will call if they're concerned, and we'll be happy to discuss the project with them and let them know, and address their concerns, of course. In terms of cars being parked there, the city's ordinance, municipal code does have limits on cars. We can't require further parking for ADUs, but there are limits on cars on a property that are stored. The streets are public right of way, so we don't have limits on the amount of cars parked on the street, but we do have time limits in which a car may be parked on the street, such as 72 hours that a car has to be moved and whatnot. I think that the answers.
Just one piece is the security concern about the neighborhood, right? I mean, the point is somebody gives it for Airbnb or something, right? I mean, some random cars come in and get parked every day, so you can't tag them that this car belongs to this person or this house, and because every day maybe somebody is coming with their own kind of a new tenant comes in and he parks it. This may have some concern for the neighbors who are living around that area. That it could be a security concern, basically.
Sure, and just to address that comment, Commissioner Capil, the state has mandated that any ADU, whether it's detached, attached, ADU, cannot be used for short-term rentals. So an Airbnb, if the Airbnb is advertising it as a rental for under 30 days, that will be in violation, not just of the city's ordinance, but also of state law. So if you are to rent out an ADU, it would have to be for long-term renters, which means a renter that's there for over 30 days.
Okay.
And registered with, not registered with the city, but just, you can't rent it out for under 30 days.
Thank you.
So that state law for no short-term rentals, is that retroactive to cottages and things that existed prior to the ADU law being passed?
I don't believe retroactive, meaning that if
right, I'm just thinking
of
I'm thinking, I have a relative in LA who bought a house with a cottage in the back, and yeah, that is rented out as an Airbnb virtually every day. And I just wonder if the state is saying, okay, now that we're going to call that an ADU and you can no longer do that, or because it's existed for many decades that it remains okay.
My interpretation, at least staff's interpretation, at least my belief of what staff's interpretation is, that we would not grandfather in any type of any use like that. So if that was the case, for 5 years, to say my relative had this out there and it's an Airbnb or VRBO, that has changed since the state law has come out.
Right, because I know, this is in Los Angeles, and it's actually quite an elaborate thing to get permitted to do an ADU. I mean, to do any Airbnb, whether it's your own house or whether it's a accessory structure. But yeah, that's interesting then. Okay, so I had two other questions. For the pre-approved vendors, such as what's happened in San Jose, are they offering a variety of sizes in both 750, sub 750 and greater than 750 square foot units, based on when the fees kick in?
Yes, so you do have a variety of sizes with those pre-approved vendors. I think I had a link on the staff report for the pre-approved program. And if you would like, I can pull it up to show you.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. I don't need to hold up the meeting for that. And you may not be able to answer this, but I wonder, does the assessed value of the property increase by the same amount of the cost of constructing the ADU? So if you're spending $300,000 to add an ADU, does your property value increase by $300,000 and you're taxed on that?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah.
I'm as confused as anybody.
I guess I can go ask Larry, guy, I can't remember.
Larry Stone.
Larry Stone about that. And then Mooney mentioned regarding fees. So personally, we only charge fees based on the city's costs. That's all we're legally allowed to charge. So I'm not sure if the residents that are not building ADUs should be subsidizing the fees for those that are building them. I'd rather see some state program that would pick up those fee costs, since the state is the primary driver behind these ADU laws. If they want to promote them, then I think they could subsidize those fees. And then Jennifer was talking about parking. So I used to live in Daly City and I have relatives in San Francisco. So what generally happens there, in both places I live, there's a high percentage of houses with ADUs, some legal, some not legal, often converting part or all of a garage. So not only does the occupant of the main house not park in the garage, but on the street, you also have the ADU residents parking on the street. So before you could have had 2 cars in a garage, now you have 4 or more cars on the street. And what the end result is the city has to put in permit parking, and each parcel would be entitled to a limited number of permits. So you couldn't get 6 permits. I think maybe you can get 2 permits per parcel, and that's how they address the parking situation. Now, of course, that makes people park further and further away where there isn't permit parking, but that's something we have to live with. And the other issue is I looked into. My wife was interested in ADU, so I looked into it. Even though I think you said we have 125 in the last how many years? 6 years.
Yes, it's 2014, 118.
Yeah, I mean that's not a huge amount, and I think the reason is, when we had a contractor tell us how much it would cost, you realize that if you're doing it as a rental unit for income property, you may as well just forget it, because the cost is so high. We were quoted about, for an 800 square foot, it was like $325,000. Plus your property tax goes up. You have maintenance and all. So I think very few people will be building them for rental income. They'll be building them for family members, parents, or children, whatever. So I doubt if we're going to see like thousands and thousands of these being built, just because the economics of it. And I think that is all I have. So if no one else has any questions, let me go back to the agenda. Yeah, I guess that is it. So thank you for the study session, and yeah, hopefully those units will be built and will contribute to our housing element for this cycle and for future cycles.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. We can move on now. Are there any public hearings? I don't believe so. There's no old business. There's no new business. So now we can do staff and commission reports. Are there any staff reports?
No, Vice Chair.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on to commission reports. Does anyone have a commission report? Have they attended any meetings or have anything to say?
I attended environmental review meeting, but the agenda item was cancelled for some reason, and so there was no deliberation on it.
Oh,
so
okay.
So
very good,
all.
thank you.
The 5-minute meeting.
Vikram, do you have anything? No. Okay, how about Mooney?
No.
So I attended a session today. It was the email came and I registered, and it was League of Cities in California. I think there are quite a few mayors and others were talking, and this is primarily about Bill AB 9 that's coming up.
SB 9.
SB 9. So I believe it's on the assembly floor, and there was discussion about calling the assembly members and asking them to vote against it. And there are a bunch of reasoning that they were giving, why it's a bad bill. So I was just listening, and so that's just what I gathered. So.
Okay, I guess it is on to me then. Okay, so this afternoon at 1 p.m. I was on a Zoom call with a member of Assembly Evan Lowe's staff, and this was regarding SB 10. Since SB 9 has already been voted out of appropriations at the Assembly, now it's SB 10. And I have to say, it was, to say the least, disappointing. As you know, most cities in California, most affordable housing organizations oppose both SB 9 and SB 10. Mainly because they don't address the affordable housing crisis, which is the real crisis we have right now. So Assemblymember Lowe did vote in favor of SB 9, and SB 10's coming up soon. And it was disappointing because the staff member really did not understand anything about the bills and how they do not provide for additional affordable housing. And she was promoting the whole trickle-down theory where we're going to build market rate housing, and eventually there'll either be so much of it, it'll become affordable, or it will deteriorate to the point where it's no longer luxury housing, and then it will be affordable in that way. And I was reading the Housing is Human Right website. This is an affordable housing advocacy organization. They've come out strongly against SB 9 and SB 10, and they did polling showing a very large majority of Californians oppose these bills, mainly because of the displacement and gentrification and additional homelessness that they will end up causing. The staff member also was trying to talk about climate change and how high density housing would affect climate change, when actually it's the opposite. It's the sustainable housing is the low density housing where you can have solar panels and clotheslines and all to reduce your energy use. But I think we'll see more of that kind of narrative where, we need to approve SB 9 and 10 because of climate change, which is definitely a false narrative. The staff member also inquired as to the SB 35 Valco project, but that is not up to the Planning Commission at this point. As many people know, the 3-year approval expires next month, and the city does have discretion to grant another year. It's not required, and that will be up to the city council and staff. It's actually not clear whether it's ministerial or the city council gets involved. But whatever it is, the Planning Commission would not be involved in that. So I told her I really couldn't comment as to what actions the city would do. And that is it. That is all I have. We can go back. Okay, I guess if nobody has anything else, we are ready to adjourn. So thank you everyone for attending. We did it in 1 hour. Very good. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye bye.
You know,
Good night.